Yesterday it was stated that ammunition was that was banned by the UN and against government policy came into this country under your watch as police commissioner.
Yeah.
How do you respond to
Well,
that?
first thing, that's a lie. I challenge the government to show what government. There's no government policy. That was a lie. There's no such thing as government policy as it pertains to firearms. There's a law. So they lied to the country by claiming there was a government policy. The law states that if it is that you are eligible, you adhere to certain criteria, then you can have a firearm. So that was a total lie. And I challenge Fitzy Hines, please show us where's that government policy. So there's no government policy. Two, as it pertains to the ammunition, I challenge them to show where 57 million rounds of ammunition came into this country. Three, the comment made that the UN has banned that is a lie. Every single police service and almost every army and almost every police service in the world, they use 556 and 762. Total lie. I was in the military, and I'm telling you, that is a lie. Four, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service still utilize this ammunition because I did a comprehensive audit as Commissioner of Police, and there's over 1 million rounds of such for the police service. So that was also a lie. Five, he continued to give the impression that, well, maybe when we bring this ammunition, it meant that probably the criminals got it. On what grounds do you have that? What evidence? What names? Nothing at all. So you just make up something without any facts. And let me tell you, six, if it is if it is so easy for criminals to get automatic weapons, you think they need to go by a legal firearm dealer who brought in legitimate ammunition to have to get it from them? If it's so easy to get an illegal weapon, you will get the illegal ammunition. You will get the ammunition outside as well. And again, if you recall, the ammunition that we've been seeing at crime scenes have been that of you're seeing markers of the Defense Force and the police service. They're forgetting all of that. So all of the nonsense that you've been told by them, they have continued to be lies. They are misleading the country. And again, it is indeed unfortunate, but because you're concerned about ammunition being provided, but then you provide $12 million this year to, guess what, to bring more ammunition for the police and the defense force. That's another 3 million rounds. So if it is that we had 57 million rounds already, why have $12 million approved to bring in more ammunition for the defense force? It was totally incorrect. And again, this is how the PNM operates. You say the same lies over and over and hope that the country will believe it.
So, Mr. Griffith, are you also denying that police officers were not checking in with these firearms dealers, as was claimed yesterday?
Again, we did a comprehensive audit. As the Commissioner of Police, it's the first time it ever happened. I did an audit going to every police station, being able to check for ammunition, being able to check for the weapons that would have been seized. We were doing that. If it is that Fitzgerald Hines understood technology, you cannot check ammunition through these the persons who have who are bought it in unless you use technology, which is why I got the FUL card with the chip. The FUL card with the chip would have ensured that there can be no corruption or ammunition being stolen, missed, or sold. Because if it is, in other words, somebody who has a range, he has 100,000 rounds of ammunition. You go in and you utilize 100 rounds. Your card must go in. So when it is we come to those FUL dealers, we could see exactly where the rounds went. So you can't just say that it went and other people just used it. That was the technology. They shut it down. By you shutting it down, you have given the opportunity for the ammunition now to be misplaced. Why did you shut it down? Was there a deliberate attempt to ensure that criminal elements can very well get it? So the only way you could have that, because going to a range, somebody with a range, and they said, well, persons came in and they used 200,000 rounds of ammunition. You can't account for it. The card with the chip, that would have made sure that it was foolproof. They put an end to it.
And I think also said last evening was, as to how it was put, it sounded like a crime syndicate within the TTPS as it pertained to FULs, right? It was stated that handguns were going for something like $40,000, but even more shocking than that, assault weapons were going for $40,000 to $100,000. Mr. Griffith, your response to that?
Again, lies, because any citizen who has an automatic weapon would have broken the law, so that is impossible. Fitzgerald Hines also lied even a few months ago when he did an interview and said that we were allowing component parts to be brought in to change semi-automatic to automatic. That was a lie. And again, if it is that claims were being made that people were being bribed, I asked Keith Rowley, you made that comment, go to the police station and report it. And if it is that what you said is not true, the police should charge you for wasting police time. Because you can't be saying people are doing this, you're not giving names, you're not giving dates, you're not giving incidents when it took place. So you continue to say things in the hope that people will believe it. So you had the Stanley Jokey John report. After 3 years, you had an audit report as well. After 3 years, the Stanley Jokey John report and the audit report, not one senior police officer has been arrested. Not one FUL holder has been arrested. Not one FUL dealer has been arrested. So this was the massive well-oiled criminal industry. So you call it a massive well-oiled criminal industry, but you have not been able to find a crime. That is unbelievable. But this is what the PNM do. They say the same lies over and over and hope people believe it. How something could be, if it is that people were being bribed, why doesn't Keith Rowley call a name and have that person go to a police station? I was the only commissioner of police ever that told the public if at any time anyone tries to bribe or blackmail you, if not the police, go to the PCA and report it. And that shows exactly what I intended to do. And it affected big business in the police service. I was able to cut over $100 million in overtime corruption because of a couple hundred police officers claiming they were working 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, and it was being signed. So obviously they will have rogue elements in the police service. I dealt with it, just like how I dealt with the concerns we've heard for decades about firearm corruption. But you can't find one thing that I have done incorrectly. The only thing you could blame me for, I did my job too well. Because commissioners before, there was a backlog, as I stated, of over 10,000 applicants. And because of laziness, they did not deal with it. I was dealing with it because my aspect was, if that is the law and someone has adhered to the criteria, then you are entitled to get a firearm. And that is what I did, and I did my job well.
And also, let me allow you to respond to another allegation that was, well, not an allegation, but, as it pertains to the bank account that you filed the injunction for, that the FIU is going to look into.
Yeah.
That was also stated yesterday. Minister Hines would have stated, well, if you have nothing to hide, then why not let
why so fast?
Yeah, that's it. Fast and out of place. Because if the FIU or anybody wants to get my accounts, you can have it. But you cannot break the law. You cannot abuse your authority as an independent body just to say willy-nilly, I am going to dig up into the accounts and I am going to call the banks. When you do that, you embarrass the reputation of the individual without any due process. The FIU, you must trigger a red flag. If the red flag wasn't triggered, it meant the FIU breached their authority. So if anybody wants to see my bank account, you could come and call me and you could get it immediately because I have nothing to hide. But do not break the law. Do not abuse your authority as an independent body to just state, well, I feel that I have a right to go and check into your accounts. That is my point. It is similar to a commissioner of police, which is what happened to me and my wife, where they decided to intercept our phones and use the word intelligence. That is a breach of confidentiality. You have breached my privacy. You have broken the law. And you can't say that I'm doing it because of intelligence. Because then the same way they could say, well, you're making phone calls. Why can't we intercept? You have nothing to hide? That is not the point. You as an independent body, whether you be the police service, the FIU, you cannot abuse your authority as an independent body. And that is what I am fighting. Because I'm fighting not just for Gary Griffith, but each and every citizen who might have the same problem by persons in independent bodies being probably politically manipulated to abuse their authority and to abuse the rights of citizens of this country.
And my final question on that $100 million initiative that was put forward yesterday. Now, the manner in which it was stated, it sounded as if the 100 million is to obviously give to defense force, retired and so on, to be able to go into these communities as you have gang members and so on, hindering the provision of state services. I think the lighting incident was mentioned where they wanted to put up lights, and this miscreant, as they call that person, said that they didn't want any lights and so on. So it sounded like it was to put that resource into the hands of the defense force to be able to go in and provide along with the state services, to provide state services to these underserved communities. Is it that you're saying that they should instead use community policing for that purpose?
If I could, Alicia, you seem to have a better clarity on that than Keith Rowley, because he did not state what you said in that way. But the issue really is, what are you doing with the money? Is it for security? But we're already paying a defense force and a Trinidad and Tobago police service for state security. There's also the issue of private security, which ordinary citizens, just to remind you, ordinary tax-paying citizens in this country take money, extra money from their pocket now to pay for security in their community. So we already have those levels of security. What are these retirees and recruits? I want to repeat, retirees and recruits coming to do? Are they coming to play dominoes, all fours, small goal, to mobilize the youth in the area? What are they doing? And I want to remind you, our government embarked on a study. It was the Selwyn Ryan study on youth at risk, in which over 100 recommendations were made to deal with youth at risk, particularly in hotspots, in underprivileged communities, and so on. All you have to do is implement recommendations of that, many of which are low cost, or probably no cost at all, using existing government services and existing government personnel. So we have a suspicion that this is really a program to transfer money to gangs in communities to buy and further embezzle and extort money from the state institutions. And that is something we look at. I also have a question, if I may answer. A reporter, I believe from the Newsday, has asked a question on something Dr. Rowley, I believe, said yesterday, which concerns the Damian vessels. Now, for several years, they have been talking about the procurement of those 12 vessels. While they are talking about the procurement of the vessels were down. 9 years later, they are saying, fix it. They are going to fix it. 9 years later, they want to fix what was done 9 years ago. And they have this mantra they keep. And this is an election year effectively. So you will hear this again. You will hear Live Sport and EMBDC and Damian Vessel, that some foreign government received finder's fee for it of 100 million or something like that. If that is so, and if anything has been done that is criminal, that is wrong, if anything has been done that is illegal, they had 9 years to investigate. How come you give Vincent Nelson $100 million and a promise of $500 million because you wanted to fabricate a case against Anand Ramlogan and Gerard Ramdeen, but you could not investigate what you talk about, the procurement of Damian vessels? I believe it was now 10 years now or 12 years now. They cannot. So that, as the reporter is saying, is really, to me, a hogwash. The other issue somebody has just raised with me concerned the mobile scanners. Now, mobile scanners were procured when Mr. Griffith here was Commissioner of Police. There was actually a video of the police using it on one night somewhere on the road, using it, and we saw it in action. As soon as Mr. Griffith goes, the mobile scanner is not working. Somebody pulled the plug.
Tire flat.
Tire flat. First, they said tire flat. Then we say, after 6 months, did you buy the tire? They said, well, we're fixing that, but we don't have personnel trained. But then how come the TTPS under Mr. Griffith was able to do an exhibition, really, of how it works and so on? So those persons were untrained. So they keep excuses why they can't have mobile scanners. Body cams. We are told now that you can videotape a policeman or woman in the line of their duty and so on. Let me just give you one example of how bad things are with the police. And I mean, somebody might tell me not to talk about that too. Do you know, in a court case recently in Cuba, in the magistrate court, this is a fact, as they say, check it out. The court prosecutor, which is police, had to give disclosure to the defense in a matter. So the defense, of course, they go to the magistrate in the open court and say the police has not made disclosure. The police court prosecutor asked the defense counsel, could you get a flash drive and give us? We don't have any flash drive and we don't have money to buy a flash drive. If you could give us the flash drive, we will give you the information because it's part of the process of disclosure. The police could not afford a flash drive. The magistrate, this is public record now, had to inform the court that there's no legal obligation on the part of defense to provide a flash drive. Meaning there are implications there that a case could fall apart because you have not disclosed. You understand the implication of that? That a case could fall apart because the police or the court prosecutor did not disclose, because poor fella, he said the police can't afford to buy a flash drive. That is the reality in Trinidad and Tobago today. So I would answer that question on body cams, mobile scanners, and so on in that way. Any other question?
And if I just want to add, and again to show the difference with them and us, you want to put $100 million to give to retirees in the defense force who are not trained in that type of community policing. What I had just prior to my departure, we were training 1,000 police officers, heavily trained in that aspect of community policing to be a big brother to 1,000 at-risk youths. And that would have been known as Crossroads. That would have taken 1,000 young men and women away from the streets or into crime by having a big brother of a police officer. And also as it pertained, as Mr. Munila spoke about with the vessels, when it is we got the dormant vessels are used similar in 17 other countries in the world. The Hostal we just got is used only in Australia. Let me tell you about Hostal. Under the PNM administration, they acquired 6 Hostal vessels in 2008 or 2009. And within 2 months, those 6 vessels broke down because they were not made for our waters. If anyone thinks I'm lying, go to Hartscott in Chaguaramas, you'll see the 6 vessels there for the last 17, 16 odd years because they bought the wrong vessels. That is what the PNM government has when it comes to dealing with naval acquisition for the Coast Guard.
Yes.
From Guardian Media here. One of the major counter-arguments the Prime Minister seemed to have last night in relation to the SOE is that he doesn't want to hinder any sort of economic recovery or slowdown of activities that could help boost the economy in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Any general thoughts or responses to that?
Well, Mr. Griffith is well equipped, but I would just say a businessman died because he was a victim of home invasion. I think that slows down some economic growth as well. Yeah.
And also, let me add, there's a perception, in some countries, a state of emergency is if there's a forest fire. We get this perception that a SOE is taboo, a SOE is the worst thing in the world because there's a curfew. Having a state of emergency doesn't necessarily mean you have a curfew. So the SOE triggers allows the defense force to come in. As I said again, 5,000 highly trained persons. We have 500 in the Air Guard who are in Piarco Airport for the last 3 years doing nothing because they don't even have a paper plane. We have over 1,000 in Coast Guard and they have no vessels. And then we have 3,000 members in the defense, in the army on standby. We had 150 men coming down into Port of Spain to destroy Port of Spain when I was Commissioner of Police. They refused to come out. And I had to utilize my tactics to ensure that Port of Spain was not destroyed. Thankfully, because the police, I had a trained unit that were militarized, known as the Special Operation Response Team, to save Port of Spain. So again, it shows where it is that we are going. And I hope this can put some degree of understanding to the point.
Oh, I was just going to jump on his question because other than giving triggering a curfew and giving the army powers of arrest, in terms of utilizing that extra 3,000 members of the defense force that you say are present, can't it be done with the joint initiatives? I think the president just allowed, was it 100?
No. So that thing with the president is real puppy show. That is something that is done every year for the last 20 years to ensure that volunteers you get 100, so they'll get paid for Christmas, they'll get a little thing, and then it allows 100 soldiers to come out to assist in what is known as joint patrols. The joint patrols is part of the IATF. That does nothing as it pertains to the strength and the power of the defense force. When I was Minister of National Security, I think a police officer was shot in Laventille. And I put the might of the defense force in Laventille. And for 123 days, there was 1 murder, and that was domestic violence. Laventille was never so safe. Jamaica, they do it right now. It is known as the Zone of Special Operations, where as specific areas that are targeted, that is become very volatile, it allows the defense force to move in there. Keith Rowley, they have refused to utilize the defense force and how it should be done. This is not about defense force coming in there high-handed, but these officers are trained not just in dealing with a war, but armed conflict. We have 2,000 persons with automatic weapons, hand grenades. We are at virtual war. The country is drowning in blood. And you have 5,000 remaining in camp, and now you're bringing out reserves to play twiddlywinks with persons in a community. That is not how you utilize the defense force.
Could I just add something that while the Prime Minister makes the point that a state of emergency would have some type of economic implications and so on, as it is today, many businesses are closing up. Many businessmen and women are migrating, whether it's Florida, Canada, wherever, are leaving, particularly now that technology allows them to do business cross-border. They are simply leaving. Many are closing up. Many are selling away. So already the high level of homicide, crime in home invasion and so on is leading to a migration of particularly the business community. And that will affect investment, job creation, income redistribution, and so on. So there's already a huge economic implication of this level of crime. Anything else?
Yeah, and let me again add, this is to re-emphasize, the incoming government has no reason to call a
Correct.
state of emergency, because you'd have seen what was done in 2013 to 2015 when we cracked it. You'd have seen what was done when I was Commissioner of Police. There was no need to call a state of emergency. So that will be the last resort, and it's always there. But because we had the capability, the tools, the political will, the technology, the units, the systems from the National Operations Center, the Special Operation Response Team, the Emergency Response Patrol, a proper 999 system, the Rapid Response Unit, the National Security Special Operation Group, the Community Comfort Patrol, I could go on and on. So we have, up to now, the things I have called, this government for 8 years have not come up with one policy to deal with national security, to deal with crime. So that will not even be on the cards when we get there. What we are saying is, because of this present government's failure and incompetence, because of their inability to come up with any policies, state of emergency may very well be their last resort.
Mr. Griffith, last night the minister would have said a number of different things about you. I think at one point he even said, and perhaps jokingly so, that he wouldn't be surprised if he saw another pre-action protocol letter this morning. Just wanted to reach out to you and see if that's something you consider, if you reach out to your legal counsel, given everything that was said and expressed last night.
No, there's enough already, because I have Fitzgerald Hines in court, I have Stanley John in court, I have Rhoda Barrett in court, I have Keith Rowley's in court, I have several other people. So if it is that you feel that you're going to cross the threshold, remember the thing with defamation, if you're speaking the truth, you have nothing to worry about. What is Fitzgerald Hines worrying about? What is he concerned about? The factory in the country, when he said that I brought in change semi-automatic into automatic, that is a lie. He accused me of committing a criminal offense, and that is where I will take his rasta wicket.
One last thing from myself. I know you and the minister don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but during his wrap-up of his presentation last night, he made a comment where he basically called on all of society, specifically the judiciary, to sort of reassess or revisit how they look at crime and criminality. And he made a reference that possession of a protective wildlife species actually carries a heftier penalty than possession of a gun and ammunition. I know during your tenure as commissioner, you've also called for some stiffer penalties for people with possession of guns and so on. Is this something that you all kind of have some common ground on, or was it also?
No, not at all. I show the value of the Anti-Terrorism Act. It is used right now in Ecuador. It is working. They have refused. The Anti-Terrorism Act is to make sure there's no get out of jail free card when we hold you with an automatic weapon. As a commissioner of police, we held an individual with 4 assault weapons. That means that if he had 4 friends, you could kill 100+ citizens in 3 seconds. And he got $50,000 bail the very next day, because it is there. The anti-gang legislation, it has failed. It is not a good act. It is not pegging back the gang members. This one, with the Anti-Terrorism Act, you utilize that, you turn them into terrorists. If someone could kill 35 people in 3 seconds and you have the capability to do it, if that is not a terrorist, what is? But Keith Rowley seems so concerned about making these people deemed as terrorists. But they are the ones who have destroyed the country. They've destabilized the country. The country right now is drowning in blood. The country is mortally wounded. And you are saying that let us not go to that direction. So again, it shows that the views of the PNM is that they must always look after the rights of criminal elements more than the rights of law-abiding citizens. It is time the scale of justice must be tilted towards law-abiding citizens.
Okay. If I remember carefully, there was a piece of legislation initially that once you're found with a firearm, you get no bail. I think it was for 120 days. Was that underneath your tenure, Mr. Griffith, while you were commissioner?
No, I think that was when I was Minister of National Security, but it was a sunset clause.
Yeah, we have had the bail bill.
And the opposition refused to
we have had
allow for the extension of that piece of legislation. In hindsight, Mr. Munila, do you think it was the right decision?
Well, when we refused, let me make the point again. We supported 41 pieces of legislation to deal with crime. 41, including the bail. We have supported the bail bill before. When they came to extend, I believe on one occasion, 2017-18, I can't remember the exact year, they came and admitted that the Bail Amendment Act was not working, in that they could not identify one case where it was effected. where it was implemented. And on that basis, we said that if it is not working, then we have to discuss further amendments or further legislation. And I think in those circumstances, there was no support on that one occasion. But 41 times, we supported the same PNM government on anti-crime legislation. I have one question here that I just want to take before we wrap up. Alicia, you have a lot to ask. I'm sure you and Mr. Griffith could have a long conversation in the corridor after. But one question is, as someone has asked, will the UNC participate in constitutional reform consultation? That was the question. Let me indicate that we are not at any consultation stage now. What I think they intend to do is to establish a committee to do some working paper or terms of reference or so on for consultation that may or may not take place next year or later this year. I'm not sure. In fact, I don't think they are sure of what they're doing. We keep to the point that this is a sham, this is a political ploy, because we are in an election season, general election, and nothing can happen given the issues involved and the time it will take. I also want to end this constitutional reform by saying that Mr. Rowley is bringing all of this committee to deal with constitutional reform. Many are very senior people incidentally, in that committee, retirees and so on. It's like the Defense Force retirees. They're bringing a lot of the retirees and so on. That is fine. They are very persons with expertise. But Mr. Rowley is doing that when he has already undermined almost every single independent public institution or constitutional institution. The Police Service Commission was undermined by Keith Rowley himself, who went, I think, like a policeman or a postman by the President House and he snatched a letter that was meant to come to Parliament to appoint Mr. Griffith. He literally went there like a postman, snatched the letter. That is undermining a constitutional institution, Police Service Commission. They undermined the central bank. Remember, they threw out a governor of the central bank, and the court later ruled that that was unlawful. They undermined the Integrity Commission by starving them of funds to do their job, and just recently threw out the chairman of the Integrity Commission as well. If you look at it, the DPP has been crying blood for resources and equipment for years so that he may do his job, and his staff. They have undermined every independent institution under the Constitution and want you, the population, to believe now that they are serious about constitutional reform. That is a sham. We do not accept it at all. We do not accept it. And I will end that there. All that is left for me to do now is to thank Mr. Griffith for joining us this morning at the office of the Leader of the Opposition, to indicate to you the very good news that between only Facebook and YouTube, we have had in excess of 1,500 views, which is 1,450 more than the PNM meeting of last evening, I believe. So we want to thank all. I mean, it can't be 1,500 reporters, but we want to thank all for joining us. Clearly, there's a great interest in what we are doing. That is excluding other social media platforms as well. I want to invite the national community to Monday night. We are having our Monday night forum in El Socorro on Monday coming, where we will hear from the political leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Deputy Political Leader Jillian John, and other speakers. It will be a high-powered political meeting on Monday evening at 7 p.m. El Socorro in the constituency, I believe, of Barataria, Samoa. We look forward to that on Monday evening, and those of you, we invite you to join us online on the various social media platforms as well. So with those words, we thank you very much for participating in such a mass participation at our press conference this morning. Thank you, and God bless you all.